So,
all right, hi everybody. This is Steve Wilson from the product team, where I'm leading up cloud and IoT. And today I'm joined by Vice President and Technical Fellow Chris Fleck. And we're going to walk you through some of the new things going on that we announced at Synergy, in particular around our new support for managing applications for web and SaaS. So diving in here, I'd like to talk first about kind of how this relates to people's overall cloud transformation strategies. And really, when we look at where people started, life was pretty simple. You had all of your technologies embedded on-prem on your own hardware inside your data center with a big old firewall wrapped around it, and your users all accessed it via VPN. However, as we really started to move towards more dynamic environments in the cloud, we started to see a shift. And really, when the cloud came along, the initial proposal on how to do your cloud transformation was simple. You threw away your hardware, you moved everything to the cloud. Called this lift and shift. But the fact is, it didn't really work for anybody. And there were a lot of reasons why this doesn't work. When we get down into it, we see we've got issues around governance and security, issues around data gravity, cloud vendor lock-in, and ultimately these things take time to happen. Look at the messy real world of cloud transformations. We start from that same place, but a lot of people, their cloud transformation started with some developers renting VMs on Amazon. But probably more importantly, for a lot of other people, it started when, say, a line of business inside their company adopted something like Salesforce, a real SaaS application. And then ultimately, more recently, with IT groups moving to Office 365, it's really opened the door to cloud and SaaS. And now we see a majority of our customers starting to look more like this, with a mix of on-prem data center, which they certainly still have a lot of, but also infrastructure clouds and a lot of software as a service. So to that end, to help people really manage an environment like this is what we're calling our concept of a secure digital workspace. And this secure digital workspace is wrapped in a secure digital perimeter, which is a much more dynamic means of securing all of this, because you simply can't wrap a firewall around the internet. And a set of capabilities to make this easy to use for people, and a set of capabilities that make this easy for IT to effectively manage and secure. And then all of this is backed with our new generation of analytics technologies. So with respect to SaaS in particular, we've introduced a new set of components that all go towards what we're calling our ability to control cloud applications. So the ability to get instant access to your SaaS applications from the workspace, from any browser. But beyond that, the ability to get enhanced security features for those web and SaaS applications using what we call the Workspace app, which includes an embedded web browser. These additional security policies include things like data loss prevention, which you can see in the form of the ability to put watermarks across things to help track where data is coming from if people do things like take screenshots or pictures. The ability to restrict navigation and copy and print. The ability to control downloads and control things like mobile access. Then as we get into the analytics side, we get the ability to filter URLs, control different kinds of content that are allowed to come inside the firewall and through the browser, and ultimately full user behavior security analytics with a new set of events and actions specific to the world of SaaS. So just to wrap up the high-level piece here, we've created a new catalog of pre-built integrations with the world's largest SaaS vendors. And this is just a sampling. By the time you're seeing this video, we'll have over 50 of these, and we're continuing to add them rapidly. So these mean that you'll get all of the SAML integration that you need done easily to do that transparent single sign-on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and Chris is going to give us a demo and a little behind the scenes on how this works.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So let me give you a demo, and what you're looking at right here is what we call the Citrix Workspace. And as you've noticed, it's got a list of all your applications. It's got, if you've got desktops published to you, as well as your files. So this is a way to get access to all of your files, your OneDrive, your shared drives, and effectively be able to work from anywhere on your device, but do it in a new, safer fashion within this Workspace app. So if we look at the Workspace app specifically, what's new here is the fact that not only are we combining traditional hosted apps like Outlook on XenApp or AutoCAD on XenApp, what we also have is an app, a SaaS app, a native SaaS app like Salesforce. And so what I'm going to do here is launch Salesforce. And what's happening is it's single signing on instantly, and the browser is actually the Citrix embedded browser running from inside the Citrix Workspace app. And so you notice the instant access, no sign-on required, no passwords or credentials required. You'll also notice the browser bar across the top. There isn't the typical backspace and address bar and print and so forth. And that's because the admin decided that for Salesforce, they didn't want to publish that. When you have control of the browser, as we do with the Workspace app, the admin on a per app basis can either include or not include those kind of features on the browser bar control. You'll also notice here, I'm the user here as Sean White, and it identifies me and the IP address that I'm coming from. And so that's adding a additional layer of awareness. If somebody were to maliciously, take a screenshot or a picture, they'd be identified in terms of where that came from. If you notice here, I'm going to click on a couple of links. So if I click on this link from inside Salesforce, what it did is it opened up another browser, another Citrix embedded browser, and it actually connected to inside the Citrix firewall. So that's one scenario. Here's another scenario where I'm clicking on an app like Instagram, and it also launches that application. And when we're doing that, we're also protecting it, and I'll show you how and why that's happening. If we go to another application like PagerDuty, I'm going to click and open that. And if you notice, what we've done here is the security policy for PagerDuty was at a lower level than Salesforce. And we allowed that. The policy there was to allow PagerDuty to open in the local browser. So you notice that we had instant access, again, single sign-on into my PagerDuty account directly from the Workspace app, but instead of launching in the embedded browser, it launched in the local browser. And the beauty of this is you've got control. So IT has control as to whether they want apps to launch inside of the controlled embedded browser, or if there's situations where they want to allow it to launch locally in a local browser, we can do that as well. So with that, let me bounce over to the slides again and show you what's behind what I just demoed. So you're looking here at the admin side of things, and as Steve mentioned, we've got a growing library. We say 25, it's actually 50, and it's going to continue to grow. But the admin simply needs to go to this library and pick the apps that they want. If the app that they need is not available in the library, we've got the resources and the ability to create templates easily so that you would be able to get your application inside the Citrix Cloud library for your own use cases. So we'll be able to do that. Here's another admin policy for DLP and for the control bar. So if you look close, you'll notice we already picked the template of the SaaS app. Now we're looking at the enhanced security. And what we're picking here is restricting clipboard access that says, okay, I can copy paste between these protected apps, but not the local notepad, for example. We can restrict printing, we can restrict navigation, we can restrict downloads. We can also display a watermark as we displayed with Salesforce, but we didn't do it for PagerDuty. So again, point and click to be able to pick these security policies, but they're granular enough to be able to do that on a per app basis, which is going to make things better for your users as well as the ability to give you the control you need. We also, as you noticed, we can protect you from even not only the SaaS apps, but if someone clicks on a link from inside the Sales app. And if you noticed, we allowed Instagram to launch, but if you wanted to block that, you could. And if you notice here, we've got a filter admin panel that has categories or individual sites that you can whitelist or blacklist, and you can allow categories. We can, and where this URL filter is constantly being updated and giving you the ability to automatically block either categories or individual sites, and we're doing that for you. We're also providing additional levels of advanced authentication. So not only are we enforcing multi-factor authentication, which we've done for a while, we're also enabling Citrix provided two-factor authentication, either with a one-time password or push notifications. We can also enable things like Face ID as a authentication process. So let's look under the covers here, what's happening. So inside the Citrix Workspace app, so we talked about the Secure Digital Workspace, but if we look inside this Citrix Workspace app as the critical components, what you see here is, number one is the embedded browser. That's what's new and different. We've also got a networking client. We've got a management API. We've got the HDX engine, which you already know as the receiver, basically for serving up hosted Windows and Linux apps. And we've got a new secure cache container. So what happens here is a user would click on Workspace app. It would be directed to the Citrix Cloud. The Citrix Cloud is going to authenticate the user, and then the user will get back a list of applications that they're authorized to use. When the user then clicks on one of those applications, like Salesforce, it goes out to, say, in this case, citrix.salesforce.com. And then what happens is Salesforce would be SAML enabled to point to the Citrix Cloud that will provide the identity and the single sign-on to Salesforce. What it's also doing at the same time is it's checking to see where did this request come from. And if it came from the Workspace app, then we allow direct access. And this is critical. This is a big step up in functionality here. So we're providing native direct access from the embedded browser on the client directly to the SaaS service. So you're getting fast, instant access. But what's different here from a normal browser is because that browser is living inside the Workspace app, we also have full control over the entire session. So we have an API that's feeding our analytics service ongoing data around performance and analytics and user behavior, for example, to improve security. And we are not only collecting that data, what we can also do is close the loop. So, for example, if there is a user behavior trigger that happens that indicates, for example, excessive downloads, we can actually lock and stop the Citrix Workspace app from running and lock out that user. So it's a full closed loop system. And again, you can't do this with a standard browser connecting to a SaaS service, because normally IT is completely out of the loop. As soon as the user clicks from a standard browser, the typical scenario is you've got an embedded connection or an encrypted connection, and you can't do anything about it, and you have no visibility to what's going on. Now let's look at the situation like when I clicked on that link from inside the the Workspace app in Salesforce. And what happened there when I clicked on the link, for example, for Instagram, what we do here is with the Secure Web Gateway function, we determine is that a sanctioned URL and allow it to open natively, or is that an unknown URL? And that's a big risk that other secure web gateways cannot provide. Typically, they either overkill or don't protect the user or the organization. In our case, what we do is we effectively will redirect that request to our embedded browser that's running in the Citrix cloud, and then we allow a connection to that service that's running again through the Citrix cloud. The page opens up, so even if that unknown URL led you to a malicious website, it would not touch the organization. But if the URL was legitimate, in this case, basically it would open, the user would get to see the content and get their job done, and yet everything is happening inside Citrix Cloud at that point. So the organization is completely safe. So there's another scenario here where we can look at what happens when you don't have the Workspace app. So here you've just got a standard browser, but we still want to provide access to the employee so they can get their job done. So that might be from a home computer, or it might be from something like a hotel kiosk that's locked down that you can't install the Workspace app on. So what happens here is a user may try to connect directly to a SaaS app, again, like a Salesforce. It redirected to Citrix Cloud through the SAML process. But what happens is because we detected that you're not coming from the Citrix Workspace app, you're actually coming from a standard browser, then again, what we're going to do here is use the secure browser service to launch the session in a browser in the Citrix Cloud and allow the user to get their job done. But again, feed the information into the analytics service, as well as apply the same kind of policies around copy paste control and downloads and so forth. So as you can see, we've got a number of scenarios covered here. We expect the majority of the scenarios to be covered by a Workspace app itself, and that gives you the best performance with no overhead. But when there are circumstances when you've got unknown browsers or unknown URLs, we can accommodate those as well and allow your employees to get their job done. So some more details here of components. So we're using the gateway service that is providing single sign-on across all the applications. And again, we're doing that with the benefit of SAML 2.0 and OAuth. We've also enhanced the Workspace app, which you may know as Receiver, but it's got a lot more capability now. So not only the embedded browser, but the ability to send these security events to the analytics service. So things like launching and navigation and closing and file downloads and printing and all of that information, as well as URLs, can be sent to the analytics service. So with that analytics service, we're really beefing up what we can do with this analytics service as it relates to user behaviors. And specifically, we can now provide full coverage for SaaS applications. So either you're connecting through the Workspace app with the embedded browser, and in that case, obviously we have full control and visibility to what's happening from the embedded browser. And if you're connecting from a generic browser, we're still going to redirect you to the Citrix browser that's in Citrix Cloud. So from an IT perspective, you're covered either way. And here are some of the views, the dashboards that are available to you as it relates to access security and risk indicators. And it allows a admin to, for example, or a security analyst to drill into abnormal behavior. So here we're identifying potential data exfiltration. Do you have somebody that's downloading an excessive amount of files from Salesforce, for example, and where are they doing it from? And we can drill into those kind of things. If you look at kind of a broader picture of that, we've got an entire system of networks, files, traditional apps with XenApp, now cloud-based apps, mobile apps with Zen Mobile and our UEM solution, and being able to categorize and collect data from all of these sources of potential security problems, we can now look and analyze these behaviors. We can use machine learning to provide profiles and risk scores. We can categorize those and again make it easy for an analyst, a security administrator to quickly identify risks, to not inadvertently have false positives and shut down users from doing their job legitimately. But if you've got malicious things going on, either because of actual user behavior or perhaps something like an infiltration malware inside the network causing unusual behavior, that's where you're going to be able to find it. So with that, I'd like to again say thanks for the interest in the Workspace app and Citrix, and look forward to engaging further around how we might help with our new capabilities around web and SaaS application delivery. That's a wrap.